Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who. Last time around was Partners in Crime. What was that one about?
All right, one of the weirdest villains ever. This woman was in control of a company called Adipose.
Yep.
Which I thought that was odd because I know what Adipose is, but it turns out that's exactly what it was. She was literally the nanny of a Adiposian empire or something, and she was brought to Earth to literally take the fat out of people and create little adipose creatures, which were very weird. And unfortunately, it was doing millions of them. And it was marketed as a weight loss drug, but it was ending up hurting people. And it turns out that Donna Noble had been looking into it because her life had been turned upside down by the doctor, and it had been a year since he had departed. And then she didn't know that he was actually somewhat looking into the same problem, and ultimately they meet up and manage to defeat the Adiposians when the mothership comes and takes all the little baby blobettes back up to the ship, and then Nanny falls to her death, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, because technically it was a crime to, I guess, as the doctor said, like seeding a level 5 planet, which Earth was. And so that was against galactic law. So the rulers of Adipose took all the children and were like, and now we're just going to get rid of the person who did all of this so that we can wash our hands of it. We have the children. What are you going to do? Arrest the children? They didn't do anything wrong. So,
yeah.
So yeah, in a sense, we technically lost because we got away. I mean, most people didn't lose their lives over becoming tiny little adipose creatures, but at the end of the day, we didn't really succeed that much. It just happenstance that that Foster was just dropped. So yeah, that's basically where we left off.
And we did get some background on Donna's family.
Yes, we saw Donna's mother and
grandfather.
And grandfather, yes. And just establishing the family dynamic there. So, and then at the end, Donna had to put the car keys somewhere for her mother to come get, and ask this really nice blonde woman to tell her that's where the keys were, and then she went off and departed into the TARDIS. That's what happened, right?
No, because the blonde woman turned out to be an exact replica of Rose. Okay. I'm sure that will come back and haunt us throughout the rest of the season.
I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. It seems it's probably fine. So, but yeah, we're moving on.
But didn't the Rose creature disappear, not just walk off? Didn't she dissolve?
Yeah.
All right,
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah, I can keep up the charade as long as I want. But yeah.
So it wasn't really Rose. If it is really Rose, then something's wrong because she is, traveling interdimensionally or something, which she was not supposed to be able to do. Anyway.
I don't know.
Anyway.
You don't know.
I don't know.
I know. They know. So, but yeah, we're moving on to episode 2. For reference, this is normally when we would look over and we would see the list of episodes on my computer monitor. It's not there because I once again forgot to do it in a way to not see the spoiler for later. So what we're going to do today is when I start the episode, I'm just going to have you close your eyes, and then the episode will start, and then and then it'll be fine. So,
all right.
So we'll get to that in a sec. I don't know. This is normally the part where we talk for like 10 more minutes about nothing. So I noticed that last episode, our intro, our introduction that we did was 15 minutes long. I'm not sure that we really talked about anything except like modern slang and stuff. So
that was pretty cringe.
Yeah. So, but I don't know if we have any topics like that today. So
other than it's the rainy season here in Oklahoma. April and May and June are the 3 rainiest months of the year. And it started raining early this morning, and it is now about 11:17 on Saturday morning, and the rain is nonstop.
And I will not be able to mow the backyard for weeks because it says it's just going to keep raining and raining and raining for weeks. So lawn's just going to get really big, and I can't do a thing about it. So, which to most people it probably doesn't mean anything. But if you are the lawnmower out there, let us know in the comments, because it's just, I don't know. I remember I saw a YouTuber. He was doing a live stream. He was having an argument with his chat about mowing a lawn, and it was one of the dumbest things I've seen. But they were arguing that
Dumber than this.
Well, we talk about a lot of dumb stuff, but the chat was arguing like you shouldn't cut your lawn so short because it's bad for bugs and stuff like that. And it's just like, no, I can't. I cannot care about the bug. There's plenty of other places for bugs to go. For one thing, they go in my house. Second thing, there's plenty of other land they can go into. And I don't know if this will ignite people to talk about that in the comments, but it's one of those things of like, I understand like environmental, safety and environmental, thinking and stuff like that and preservation, but I gotta mow my yard. Plus, it's better for the dog. Like I've noticed, like when it gets really, really tall, he's just like barely walking around in the backyard. So it's just like, now I gotta mow my yard. So, anywho, that it?
Pretty much. We have not had any really severe storms here where we live. South of us, in the county just south of Oklahoma County, they've already had some tornadoes. This is not only severe weather season, rainy season, it's also tornado season. So,
if you follow me on Twitter, like every so often, like there was like a tornado warning in February, wasn't there? And you specifically, like, you had to wake me up. I wasn't awake yet, and so I missed out on like an hour of sleep because of this tornado warning. And so if you follow me on Twitter, you know that every so often I will tweet, hey, just so you guys know, there's a tornado on the ground. I'll let you guys know in a few hours if we're still alive. And then sometimes I think that's not really a great thing to do, because on the one hand I'm informing people about this stuff in case. On the other hand, boy, I don't want to leave people sitting on pins and needles for like 4 hours. So, but then like an hour or two later, because it's not like tornadoes stay on the ground forever. So I always tweet like, we're fine. We're all good now. So that's one of the perks of following me on Twitter, as well as all the other stupid garbage that I talk about. So, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So we should go ahead and jump into this.
Eyes.
All right, thank you. I'll tell you when.
In Rome, John and Noble, in Rome. This is just weird. I mean, everyone is dead.
Well, you don't tell them that.
Hold on a minute. That sign over there, it's in English. Are you having me on? Are we in it?
No. It's Thomas Translation Circus.
What if I said something in actual Latin? Like Vene Vide Vici. My dad said that when he came back from football. If I said Vene Vide Vici, so that look, what would it sound like?
I'm not sure. You have to think of difficult questions, don't you?
I'm going to try it.
Afternoon, sweetheart. What can I get you, my love?
Vene Vide Vici.
Huh? Sorry? Me no speak Celtic. No can do missing.
You sound Welsh. No, yeah, learn something.
That does not bode well.
Oh no, people in robes.
Closely. You've been here before then?
Ages ago. Before you asked, that fire had nothing to do with me.
Yes, it did.
That's not what you said last time.
Around properly.
Well, it looks like maybe an ancient priestess of some kind.
But there's 7 hills of Rome, aren't there? How come they've only got one?
That's not Rome.
Not in the technical sense of the city, no.
Wait a minute. One mountain with smoke. Which makes this?
Pompeii. We're in Pompeii.
It's Volcano Day.
Oh, no. You always got to get out before Volcano Day.
Read a novel many years ago. I think it's by the same guy that did Silence of the Lambs. It's about Pompeii and how somebody survived it by going down into the sewer system and getting all the way out through the exit almost out to the sea.
You're not telling me the TARDIS is gone.
Okay.
Where is it then?
You told me not to tell you.
Yeah.
Oi, don't get clever in Latin.
Wasn't yours to sell? It was on my patch, wasn't it? I got 15 sesterti for it, lovely jubbly. Who'd you sell it to?
Says
Oh,
30.
Caecilius.
Wonderful.
Don't argue. Why don't you take it out with him? Some
subtitles.
fostering. Big fella. Come on, miss. Thanks. What did you buy a big blue wooden box for?
Modern art.
Oh, seriously. Peter Capaldi.
Get me some ants and honey. There's a
He's
good
playing Caecilius.
Ooh, maybe a dormouse.
Pretty soon he'll be in Horto.
I tell you, Caecilius, that boy will come to no good.
Sorry, household gods.
Caecilius in Doctor Strange.
Napoleon, I bet. Cavorting with your
Yeah.
Trust.
You stand in the marketplace announcing the end of the world. They'll just think you're a mad old soothsayer. Now come on, TARDIS, we are getting out of here.
Well, I might just have something to say about that spaceman.
Oh, I bet you will.
I cannot think of the actress's name,
The tall one.
but that's the girl that plays Nebula in Marvel and plays Amy later in Doctor Who.
We have found it, Sister Spirina.
Why I can't remember her name is beyond me.
Karen.
Karen Gillan. There we go. I knew it started with a K. Thank you.
Doctor? Meet the doctor.
You, kind sir. I'm afraid business is closed for the day. I'm expecting a visitor.
Well, that's me. I'm a visitor. Hello.
Who are you?
I am Spartacus.
And so am I.
Mr. and Mrs. Spartacus.
Oh, no, we're not married.
Together.
Oh, they're brother and sister. Yes, of course. You look very much alike.
Really?
I'm sorry, but I'm not open for trading. I only bought it today.
Oh, well, caveat emptor.
Oh, you're
Biodata.
Celtic. There's lovely.
I'm sure it's fine, but the Romans haven't even got a word for volcano. Not until tomorrow.
Oh, great, they can learn a new word as they die.
Vulcan.
Eh.
God
Listen,
of
I'm not so
fire
you've been
and
flying around in outer space, but you're not telling me to shut up.
blacksmithing.
That boy,
But what is the dark, other than an omen of the sun? I concede that every sun must set, and yet the son of the father must also rise. Damn. Very clever, sir. Evidently a man of learning. Oh, yes, but don't mind me. Don't want to disturb the status quo.
He's Celtic.
Another with the gift.
oh, she's been promised to the Sibylline Sisterhood. They say she has remarkable visions.
The prophecies of women are limited and dull. Only the menfolk have the capacity for true perception.
I'll tell you where the wind's blowing right now, mate.
I reckon you've been out soothsayed.
Is that so? Man from Gallifrey. What?
Man, they had real stuff back in Rome.
Strangest of images. Doctor, she is returning.
Who is? Who's she? And you, daughter of London. There is something on your back.
What's happening?
After the great earthquake 17 years ago, an awful lot of damage. But we rebuilt.
Didn't you think of moving away? Oh, no, then again, San Francisco.
This.
On it.
They're all consuming this.
Dust.
Tiny particles of rock.
You can get that in your nose.
Lucius Petrus Dextrus.
Quintus usually means the fifth
Nothing to do
son.
with me.
Let me try again. This Lucius Petrus Dextrus. Where does he live?
Petrus, a form of stone. Dexterous hand, perhaps.
What you doing, old Pompeii, then? Girls your age. You got mates? You go hanging about around the shops? TK Maximus?
I'm promised to the sisterhood for the rest of my life. What can you see happening tomorrow? Is tomorrow special? You tell me. What'd you see? The sun will rise, the sun will set. Nothing special at all.
In a cosmic sort of way.
The noblewoman. She spoke of a new prophecy. The fall of Pompeii. Pompeii will last forever. Then what must we do? The false prophet must die. Sacrifice her.
Oh, now you're in trouble, Donna.
I respect your victory, Lucius. Shake on it? Come on. Dying man's wish.
Hand of stone.
Oof.
He's... Jeremy.
Good call on remembering your Latin.
Word of the gods.
He's stone.
Harmless enough, though.
Oh. He has a setting for tip things over.
Blessed are we to see the gods.
Oof. No. No, Jimus. Oh, good job.
You will be silent.
Listen, sister, you might have eyes on the back of your hands, but you'll have eyes on the back of your head by the time I finish with you. Let me go!
This prattling voice will cease forever.
Oh, that'll be the day.
What's happened to you?
The heavens have blessed me.
If I might.
Fire gods.
What's a Parabol?
Oh, that's a parabol. Growing inside her. She's a halfway stage.
The weapon is harmless.
Yeah, but it's got a sting.
Guy looks like Gary Busey.
Now then, Lucius. My Lord Paravillion. Don't get yourselves in a lava. If I might beg the wisdom of the gods, Paravillia is lost, but there is heat enough in this world for a new species to rise. Yeah, I should warn you, it's 70% water out there. Water can boil, and everything will burn, Doctor!
Yeah, it didn't just go away.
Is at stake, thank you. I can invert the system, set off the volcano and blow them up, yes, but that's a choice, Donna. It's Pompeii or the world.
Oh my god.
If Pompeii is destroyed, then it's not just history. It's me. I make it happen.
It's directly your fault this time.
But the graphics department had fun with that.
They probably reused it for a BBC documentary later. Maybe not that part. Run!
You cannot outrun the pyroclastic flow.
Not with that attitude.
It's like 200 miles an hour.
Are you planet?
That's just it. Don't you see, Donna? Can't you understand? If I could go back and save them, then I would, but I can't. I can never go back. I can't. I just can't. I can't.
Just someone.
Come with me.
Ah, so majestic.
Pompeii will be found again in thousands of years. And everyone will remember you.
You were right. Sometimes I need someone. Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
It gets better from here. It gets worse too, but it gets better from here.
You seen that boy again?
Oh, look at Quintus. My son, the doctor.
Mum, I've told you I'm not a doctor, not yet. Thank you, household gods. Thank you for everything.
Alrighty. So, the Doctor and the Roman Empire just do not mix. It will always end in fire.
Well, you know, you gave me the novelization of the Romans. I finished that 2 or 3 months ago. It just reminds me that the Doctor essentially changed the course of the Roman Empire about 30 years before this, wasn't it, with Nero?
Yeah.
So Nero would have been not too long before this. This is 79, so I think Nero was late 30s, early 40s. Burned down the city of Rome, which they were rebuilding at this point. And then, like he says, there are fixed points in time. The Titanic, fixed point in time. The end of Gallifrey, apparently, fixed point in time. And several, obviously, on other planets as well. So, I love a good historical, even though there were, aliens in it. But this one made more sense because you have this volcanic race of beings, essentially, who are using the energy behind the volcano to take over the world. And that's, it fits in just like the Doctor leaving his glasses accidentally with Nero, which then, catches the paper on fire and burns down the city. It's like what happened in The Mythmakers, where the Greeks couldn't figure out how to get into the city of Troy, and he finally said, "It's a horse, you idiots." So, very well written. Again, love the somewhat comedic aspects of it. I like Donna a lot because, again, probably since the first Romana, she's the first one to really just stand up to him and say, "You can't do this," or "You have to do this."
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, insulting him up and down, up one side and down the other. So it's just a lot of fun to see that. And now, again, I have no idea if this is going to happen, but I suspect there is not I'm sure she cares for the Doctor just as he cares for her, but I don't think there's going to be the romantic aspect of Rose and Martha in there. Again, I don't know about that. I would kind of hate to see that because the dynamic that they have works so well, just the way it is.
Yeah, so this does definitely make me want to go back to some of those old First Doctor historical episodes and rewatch them. Maybe not rewatch the episode, maybe I might rewatch the reactions.
Speaking of which, Jean Marsh, Sarah Kingdom, she was also in the Crusades, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Died about a week or two ago. She was in her 90s, I think.
Yeah. So, but yeah, honestly, it would be an interesting sort of maybe what if scenario. Maybe someone with some skill in writing could do like a version of this story, but have it be like the First Doctor and Ian and Barbara and Susan. Like, how would that sort of work in that kind of style? Because I could see something similar. I mean, I could also see them making these weird foam rock costumes to put on the screen in the 60s, but I don't know. It could be kind of interesting to see something like that.
Yeah.
Or at least read a similar story to that.
Now, we've also discussed this in the past. I know, because I've never seen the entire episode, but I've seen at some point Capaldi's Doctor meets the First Doctor.
Something like that, yeah.
And again, I think it would be interesting somewhere down the line, for example, if Ncuti Gatwa were to meet not just the First Doctor, but new actors who are playing Ian and Barbara and Susan.
Yeah.
Because to me, that would be fascinating for the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th Doctor, whatever, to suddenly having to confront these people that he started with so long ago. That would be, it seems to me, it would be a great story.
Yeah, they did have actors for them in Adventure in Space and Time.
Yeah,
because that's where they get David Bradley when they want to pick him out and be like, here, we can do the First Doctor again. And I think they took those 4 actors from that, and they had them do audio dramas as those characters in a First Doctor era audio drama. So, yeah, they could do stuff like that. But yeah, a fun historical episode in Pompeii. Now that I'm thinking about it, because again, at the time of recording this, I just finished up the 2nd episode with the newest companion in current Doctor Who, and I said in there, I was like, man, this is one traumatizing episode for her. Like, this is a terrible first outing, and then now watching this episode, it's like, is that just the thing now? It's just like we always just kind of set a standard of trauma on their first actual outing, because for Rose, and by first outing I mean after their introductory story. So for Rose, it would be the end of the world. A little traumatizing. She almost got burned to death at that point. For Martha, what was Martha's?
It would have been after the platoon of Jadoon on the moon.
Yeah, so I guess that was no, it wasn't. Was it Gridlock or was it the Shakespeare Code? No, I can't remember. It was one of those. Neither one of those is too bad, I think. I mean, maybe Gridlock a little bit more, but neither of those is too bad. Then we go to, I guess technically, last episode would have been Donna's second outing, but you can fudge it a little bit because of the special. So I would say this one is the proper second outing. Pretty traumatizing, I must say. And then now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, okay, there's that one and that one. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's like it's just an interesting thing. Always starting, we always have to have this like traumatic first outing, either in space or in the past. So,
and not to derail your train of thought there. Are you saying the daughter was Karen Gillan?
No. That was one of the women in the red.
Because
was Karen
Gillan.
Say,
her facial features really changed then, because I kept looking at her going, that doesn't look like her at all.
Yeah, so it was one of them. It was the one that was like following the Doctor and Donna when they first landed in Pompeii.
Okay.
So it's a very minor role compared to Caecilius being Peter Capaldi. The funny thing about that is, since watching this episode back in the day, I took a Latin course in college, a 1-semester Latin course, and it's hilarious because in the textbook for that first Latin course is essentially a story, and you learn Latin by following this family in Pompeii, and the main character is Caecilius, and the most famous quote from that being, Caecilius est in horto, Caecilius is in the garden. That's all I remember. It's been over 5 years since I took that course. I don't remember anything else. I also don't remember the year of French that I took. So other than counting to 20 is miserable in French. So yeah, it's because they go on like a base of 20. So you count from 1 to 21, and then, you count from 1 to 20, and then 21. I guess it would be literally 20 and 1, but 10 is not. It's complicated. It's that's all I remember of French. So,
I took Spanish in the 7th grade, which would have been about 1963, and again, the first thing they teach you is "Cómo están Pablo y Luisa?" Pablo está bien, pero Luisa tiene catarro. Paul is well, but Luisa has a cold. It's like, why do I remember that?
Yeah, so I also took Spanish in high school. That was much longer ago, and I really don't remember any of that, except that I hated it. And nothing against the Spanish language. It was in high school, and it sucked. There were a lot of underclassmen that were annoying, so nothing against Spanish. Like if I actually sat down, I could probably learn it again.
Well, that's the thing, though, and something I've never understood about educational system here in the United States. If you want to teach a foreign language, and everybody should have more than one language, you have to do it literally starting in pre-K and in kindergarten. My mother told me that I went to, when we were living in France in 1956, 57, they sent me to a French elementary school where I was in the kindergarten class. And my mother said that, for a 5 or 6 year old, what I could speak in French was phenomenal. They never learned it that well. But as I grew older and I wasn't exposed to French anymore, I've now completely forgotten it. Again, I started taking Spanish in 7th grade. But you cannot teach teenagers and adults how to learn a language better than you can teach young children. You just imprint that on their brains.
Yeah.
Let them learn English and the foreign language at the same time, and it will literally become just normal to them.
Yeah. Because nowadays, I mean, first off, I already have English under my belt. Mostly. I mean, I'm sure there are some people out there that are like, are you sure you speak English properly? I don't know about that.
Yeah, we speak American English.
Maybe even broken. Most Americans speak broken American English, so... but even then, it's like, in college learning French, I remember like the final exam where we took it in groups of 3 because we had to talk to each other. And at the end of it, my teacher said, yeah, Alex, you did all right, but I mean, you used very simple, sentences and stuff. And I was like, I know I did. And then I left because it's just like, I know, but I was on my 5th year, technically. I went for 4.5 years in college, and by the end of that, I was like, I'm so done. I'm ready to get out of here. So I'm sorry I didn't do better in French. I enjoyed it. The French class was good, but and so was my Latin class. The Latin class was funny because, because it's a dead language. The class was half learning how to actually speak Latin and half just learning about Roman culture at the time and stuff. And that I found way more interesting.
And that was a funny little bit that every time they tried to speak Latin, they said, oh, you're Celtic. Yeah. That's like when Rose met Queen Victoria and tried to do the Scottish accent.
Yeah.
No. Don't do that.
Yeah, it just doesn't work with the TARDIS translation. So, the funniest thing, though, about when I took Latin was I was saying all of this to my brother, who also took Latin years and years ago. And when I started talking about this book with, Caecilius and horto, he was like, oh yeah, that's the same book I used. So they never changed the book in years. And spoiler alert for anyone who's taking Latin right now, at the end of the book, Caecilius doesn't survive. Caecilius, his wife and the daughter, all of them die. The son does survive. And the second book, if you take another semester, I didn't, but if you take another semester, you get to the second book and it follows the son going to Britain and his adventures there. But Caecilius and the rest of the family, they all die at the end of that book in the Fires of Pompeii. Oh, and also their like chef named Grumio, he does survive. So it's really funny, and I'm sure there will be people in the comments that are like, oh my god, yes, I remember that Latin book. They're probably still using that book to this day. So
you remember when I was teaching world history, there were certain things, little mnemonic devices that I used to teach you guys about. And one of them was that the Italian peninsula was actually settled by 3 different groups at 3 different times. And you had to know who came first, who came second, who came third. Well, apparently the Latins came first, then the Etruscans, then the Greeks. So it was Latins, Etruscans, and Greeks, oh my. But also, because the Italian peninsula is shaped like a boot, what do you put into a boot? Your leg. Latins, L, Etruscans, E, Greeks, G, L-E-G.
Well, yeah. So
silly.
But they still probably use that book. I mean, it's not like they need to update it at all, probably. The language has not changed in, 2,000 years? So, but it was always an interesting thing. I want to say I took a humanities course in college, and there was at least one section of, like, Etruscan culture, which you don't really hear too much about that. Most of the classes, if they're about the Italian peninsula, they're about Rome and the Roman Empire, you know? So it was actually nice learning a bit about the Etruscans. I don't remember any of it, but still, it's been a while.
There is I don't want to say it's a prevailing theory, but there's a very well thought out, not particularly documented, but well thought out theory that the Etruscans were what was left of the Trojan culture after the Great War with Greece in 1200 BC, that they had migrated out of Anatolia, which is now Turkey, across into the Balkans, and then finally into the northern part of the Italian peninsula. And of course, the Etruscans, if you look at their artwork and all that sort of stuff, it is most similar to the Trojan stuff from, would have been 700 years earlier. And then the Etruscans are the ones who influenced the Latins, and then of course the Greeks came in, the Victor Victus. The Greek culture literally reshaped Roman culture much later, but that's what ultimately gave us what we now think of as the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire.
But wasn't that the whole thing of that's how Rome was created, was sort of the remnants of the Trojan War, or is that something else?
No, again...
the Trojans went somewhere, we just don't know.
Yes. Virgil, the great Roman poet, and his story of Aeneas, the poem's called the Aeneid, just like the Iliad and the Odyssey, is that Aeneas was a descendant of Troy who literally brought that culture with him to basically influence. Of course, the myth was that Rome was founded by Romulus and Remus, but again, basically the culture would descend from Aeneas and the Etruscans. So, at least as far as I remember.
Because it was something like they went down, they ended up in Carthage, if I recall right, and then eventually went up to the peninsula, I think. Something like that. So, anyway, I guess it all is sort of related to this episode.
Yes, well,
we're not going on full tangents today. So,
Carthage was really more of a Phoenician outpost, but again, yes, could have been heavily influenced ultimately by the Trojans. Go that far back.
It is such a very interesting just time of history that just all 2,000 years ago, pretty much from, I guess, well, the ancient Greeks, you go to Alexander, then you go to Rome and everything. So it's all just that. And honestly, it's just kind of interesting because you can also just see the line of, not really succession, but just going from the Greeks, then you get Alexander. After Alexander, you get Rome, and then from the Romans, you get all the stuff that happens in Gaul and the Britons, and eventually that ends up in the Viking culture, and it's just all this like one leading to another thing. Yeah. So,
and that's why, again, although there are people who would literally take up arms to fight me against it, I think Alexander the Great, one of the most influential people in history, because of that idea of Hellenism, where he said, although he was theoretically Greek, he's really Macedonian, but he took the Greek culture, he then combined it with the Egyptian culture, and then the Persian culture, and then the Indian culture, and putting those four cultures together, basically taking the best of all of those, is what would ultimately then influence the Roman culture, which, as you said, then spread across all of Europe and Northern Africa, which became the Gauls and the Vikings and the Angles and the Saxons and the Jutes and the British and the Americans, and then from there.
Yeah. So. And I say, because when I say it's like, oh, well, one thing leads to another, it's like, well, of course, that's how history works. But it's just kind of funny because it's like all of this stuff, that all these things that keep changing and influence each other. And then you just kind of peer to the other side, and it's like, and then there's China. They've just been there the whole time. And,
completely developed separately, yeah.
They're just, they do what they do, and they're good at it.
But again, that's where people like Marco Polo come in, where you finally get the completely isolated Chinese empire to start interacting with India and the what we now call Western Asian cultures, like what the people that followed the Persians. I can't remember. I think those were it's before the Arabs, Achaemenids or something. Anyway, yes, it all ultimately comes together, and now again, it's this idea currently taking shape in the United States that we're going to isolate. That never works. It's a global culture now, and there's no way to stop that.
We can't isolate. What am I going to do? Buy an Xbox? I cannot buy an Xbox. They don't have anything, so I need those foreign Nintendo games and stuff. Anyway, that's beside the point. But
anyway,
but yeah, there's I don't know. Yeah, and I talk about like Vinland Saga and stuff as a great anime about Vikings. Now I wish there was something about like the Romans or something, some anime that takes place during then, so I could recommend. There is an anime that kind of takes place in sort of ancient China. It's called The Apothecary Diaries. It technically doesn't take place in ancient China. It's set in like an alternate version of ancient China because it's made by the Japanese and they probably don't want to piss off the Chinese just in case. It's a great it's a really great anime for people out there. I've been watching it over the past few weeks and it's risen as one of my favorites, but it's technically, but I just like watching that because it is this sort of still very historical China. So as for the other stuff, I mean, I guess, the big thing that we haven't even talked about for this episode is the question of, should the Doctor save anyone? Like, immediately they go back, it's Pompeii, and Donna's like, all right, well, we get everyone together, we tell them what's going to happen, we evacuate them, and the Doctor's like, we can't even try. We can't do this. And it's an interesting thing because, at this point, it does kind of feel like a thing of like, we as the audience are like, well, yeah, you can't change that. It is too important and all this stuff. But then I like because this episode basically just sort of lets you step back for a moment, and it's just like, why can't you change this? Because yes, obviously it's this big important moment, Pompeii and everything, nearly 2,000 years ago that this happened and stuff, and it's like, but the Doctor is so powerful. We've seen all the incredible things he can do. Why can't he just save the people of Pompeii? And so I like that is a question they have to wrestle with until eventually he causes Pompeii to happen.
It kind of reminded me of Tom Baker with the Genesis of the Daleks. Knowing what happens later on, and he goes back to the creation of the Daleks. Does he, as a single person, have the right to prevent that from happening?
Yeah.
And he ultimately decides against it. Now, again, that's a bigger question than what happens here. Here, the choice is obvious. You have to sacrifice 20,000 people to save the history of the entire planet. But going back to Genesis of the Daleks, what if he could have prevented that? That's what if you could have prevented Adolf Hitler from coming to power? That's just one of those moral questions. And there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, so... But I at least like... I like Donna's influence on the Doctor here. And at the very least, though they could not save Pompeii, and it still is destroyed, the people are wiped out, and it becomes this important thing in the history of the human race, they can at least save someone. And so they saved Caecilius and his family. So it's at least something, because it is what they say. It's like, well, you're the Doctor, you save people. How can you just let them all die? And it's like, at least he can do something about this. So I really enjoyed that.
Right there at the end of that little tag-on episode, the prologue, or epilogue, sorry. If Caecilius could have said something like, I don't know when it was built, but like, I'm getting the marble to build the Pantheon, or just something where we would go, oh, that's why he is saved, so that he could end up building one of the great buildings of Rome, or one of the canals or the sewer system or something.
I mean, there is that, maybe he is someone important, but I mean, it also just kind of works of like, maybe he's not someone important, but he's someone to save. If you can't save everybody, at least save someone, even if it is just a marble merchant and his family. So, but that Peter Capaldi guy, he's a really interesting actor. I don't know. Maybe he'll come back and be on Doctor Who again. I don't know.
Maybe do Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah, he was in the Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad specifically, not just Suicide Squad. That was the original version. The Suicide Squad was the much better, still zany and bonkers movie, but the much better movie.
And no trace of his Scottish accent in this one.
I guess so. Yeah, it's more downplayed in this. So
now that's interesting because there are some Scottish actors, very good actors, but just like Americans who can't master a British accent. Gerard Butler, never seen him do anything where you can't completely get rid of his Scottish accent.
Well, yeah.
And again, sometimes it works for him when he did, How to Train Your Dragon. That trilogy is wonderful. But the, what is it, White House Down? Something has fallen. Olympus Has Fallen.
Yeah. White House Down was the other movie that was exactly the same, but it had Channing Tatum.
Yeah. It's just, you can hear him trying not to be Scottish. I mean, in 300, he's a Scottish Spartan.
Yeah, they're just like, it doesn't matter. Zack Snyder didn't care. I mean, it's 300 anyway, and it's wasn't it based on the comic version specifically? So it's just like Zack Snyder didn't care at that point. So, but yeah, I think I had to watch 300 for a paper a long time ago. I don't remember much about it, about that movie, other than it's crazy.
I mean, just I don't want to say it's a distortion of history because it's so obviously, but again, the basic idea, the premise behind it was true, that the Spartans and a small group of others understood that the only way that the Persian army could get overland to both the Peloponnesus and the Attican Peninsula was through Thermopylae. And they understood that they probably were not going to be able to survive it. But the idea was, we have to do what we can to allow the rest of the Greek peoples to unite together to be able to stop the Persians ultimately, and that's what happened. They built the wall of wooden ships at Salamis, and then the final battle at Plataea, where again the Persians were ultimately turned back. But that's one of those people who join the military understand that at some point they might have to sacrifice their lives for the greater good.
It's just that it's the most Zack Snyder movie you'll ever watch in your life. So, I remember at the beginning of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which takes place in ancient Greece, in the very beginning of the game, you do play as Leonidas fighting the Persians. I don't remember much about it. I'm just going to assume that he died at the end, though. So, but yeah, I did not finish that game. I got a decent, I put a couple of hours into that game. It wasn't great. The funny thing is also with the Assassin's Creed games, there was another one that I played called Assassin's Creed Origins that takes place in Egypt during the time of Cleopatra and everything. And the way that game ends is the funniest thing, which I wasn't even expecting. But at the end of the game, you're given your final objective, kill Caesar. And you are the first person that stabs him. Spoiler alert for that game, by the way. It's like 10 years old by now. But you're the first person who stabs Caesar at the end of that game. And I didn't see it coming. But I mean, throughout the whole game, you're you're the main character is meeting Cleopatra, and they're doing all this stuff. We have to take out these certain people in Egypt. That Assassin's Creed Origin was a very good game. I didn't get into Odyssey the same way though. But yeah. Anywho, this was a great episode.
Yes.
A great historical episode, yeah. And also just just more of the season 4 is probably the best season of Doctor Who. It's just more and more like this. So,
that's good. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. But you got anything else?
I got nothing.
Then that is basically it. With all of that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of our modern Doctor Who reactions, as well as another playlist with every Doctor Who reaction that's on the channel. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.